If there's even one thing we can do to reduce this violence, if there's even one life that can be saved, then we've got an obligation to try.
The former chief counterinsurgency strategist for the U.S. State Department has estimated that drone attacks kill 50 non-targeted persons for each intended target.
One of the things the United States kind of pretends is that we are morally superior. We are better able to judge what is good for other people. And therefore we are entitled to inflict our judgment on them, and that we presume they will be grateful to us for it. But that is not what happens, ever. And it's not what's happening in Yemen. It's not what's happening in Pakistan. They are furiously enraged with us.
Weapons designed for the theater of war have no place in a movie theater. If there's even one life that can be saved, then we've got an obligation to try.
Evidence shows that the U.S. government has systematically understated the extent of civilian casualties from drone strikes in Pakistan. This by automatically considering any military-aged male killed in drone attacks as a militant. A new study, however, says civilian casualties accounted for 70% of the death toll over a 3-year period, whereas American figures put that number at 30%. The findings are based on information from the families of victims and local sources concerning strikes on mourners and rescue workers. The new revelations stand in stark contrast to what the U.S. president says. Last year, Barack Obama said U.S. drone strikes are mostly killing militants. For years now, the U.S. has been using its unmanned planes to fire missiles wherever it feels necessary, including in countries that condemn its actions.
Along with our freedom to live our lives as we will comes an obligation to allow others to do the same. A majority of Americans agree with us on this. We should get tougher on people who buy guns with the express purpose of turning around and selling them to criminals. And we should severely punish anybody who helps them do this.
When the government's so-called Fast and Furious program was created, the idea was to allow illegal guns to be shipped into Mexico so investigators could trace where they were going and get a better handle on where Mexico's criminal cartels were operating. But the program has been a disaster. The guns have been linked to killings of Mexican officials, and now it appears that Attorney General Eric Holder knew a lot more about it than he recently told Congress. Here's Cheryl Atkinson.
And we should severely punish anybody who helps them do this.
New documents obtained by CBS News show Attorney General Eric Holder was sent briefings on the controversial Fast and Furious operation as far back as July 2010. That directly contradicts his statement to Congress. Listen to what Holder told a Judiciary Committee hearing on May 3rd this year.
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
We don't benefit from ignorance. We don't benefit from not knowing the science of this epidemic of violence.
Yet internal Justice Department documents show that at least 10 months before that hearing, Holder began receiving frequent memos discussing Fast and Furious. They came from the head of the National Drug Intelligence Center and Assistant Attorney General Lanny Brewer. In Fast and Furious, ATF agents allegedly allowed thousands of weapons to cross the border and fall into the hands of Mexican drug cartels. It's called letting guns walk, and it remains secret to the public.
We don't benefit from ignorance.
Until Border Patrol agent Brian Terry was murdered last December. 2 guns from Fast and Furious were found at the scene, and ATF agent John Dodson blew the whistle on the operation.
I believe most of them agree that if America worked harder to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people, there would be fewer atrocities like the one that occurred in Newtown. There will be pundits and politicians and special interest lobbyists publicly warning of a tyrannical, all-out assault on liberty. Not because that's true.
When you signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law, you issued a signing statement at that time that said you would not use that power for indefinite detention on Americans. You understood the concerns that people had. A judge earlier this year issued that the administration couldn't use those powers because it's unconstitutional. So why are the government's own lawyers fighting that judge's order, the injunction in particular? Well, let me ask you then also about the so-called presidential kill list that's gotten a lot of attention, and this list of folks who have been targeted for assassination. And on that list have been U.S. citizens who have not been afforded trial, including Anwar al-Awlaki. How do you, as president, or any president for that matter, regardless of party or person, utilize that power to assassinate even U.S. citizens?
I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking? There will be pundits and politicians and special interest lobbyists publicly warning of a tyrannical, all-out assault on liberty. If Americans of every background stand up and say, enough.
Okay, you got it. Just don't hit it.
We've suffered too much pain and care too much about our children to allow this to continue. Then change will come. This is the land of the free, and it always will be. As Americans, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights that no man or government can take away from us.
Two female Charlotte TSA agents took her to a private room and began what she calls an aggressive pat-down. They then got to feeling around her right breast, the one where she'd had surgery.
She put her full hand on my breast and said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's a prosthesis because I've had breast cancer." And she goes, "Well, you'll need to show me that."
Kathy was asked to remove her prosthetic breast as a flight attendant on her way to work.
This is the land of the free, and it always will be.
I did not take the name of the person at the time because it was just so horrific of an experience that it just blew my mind. I couldn't understand. I couldn't believe that somebody had done that to me.
Paul, we also heard tonight from the TSA over the swirling controversy with child pat-downs.
You may recall last night we wanted clarification on the policy after an anonymous flyer complained that his 6-year-old son was groped at Charlotte Douglas International during a screening. Before he went on that breaking news, our WBTV's Tom Rousey spoke with the TSA and a man who wants all passengers to boycott full body scans and pat-downs.
This is how we will be judged.